Should we start?
Why not?
Easy now.
Easy now.
Welcome back to the Drive Talk podcast, powered by Michelin. We are back at Podium Place in the roastery again.
Yep.
We love it here.
We do, especially when we have a fresh coffee.
Do you do cheers with coffee?
Well, we do.
For the first. Cheers.
Cheers.
Very good. Now then, we have loads to talk about today. We've got a few things we want to get off our chest, and we...
Yep.
But it's not that we haven't seen each other for a while, but we've been up to a lot since the last time we saw each other.
Yeah.
So we thought it'd be good to have a bit of a catch up because we've all been, the three of us have all been off doing amazing things.
Which is nothing new for you this year because you just...
Oh, mate.
How many flights have you done this year?
I haven't counted. I was counting last year. I did 50 last year, I think, and I've stopped counting this year. Too many.
Yep.
I did 4 last week and 2 this week.
Okay.
And I'm going on holiday on Sunday.
Oh, yes.
Oh, yeah, we're going to Icos. Sorry, mate.
Yeah. No, I'm looking... I'm happy for you guys. That'd be awesome. And jealous.
Why don't we, if anyone from Icos is listening to the podcast and would like us to come to one of the Icos venues to record a podcast, hit us up in the comments because we'd like that. It's the best all-inclusive. I'm going to call it a chain of resorts, but a selection of resorts there are. They're just mega.
They are absolutely incredible.
Yeah, we just hope the weather's nice because we just got to the point where we said, you know what? We can't wait. We can't make it till Christmas. And we were meant to be going to South Africa on holiday for a safari for a couple of weeks. But my dream garage build has gone over budget. Joe's getting lots of love. And his car. Oh, it's the local bobbies. It's the police.
Is
it? Yeah. I wonder if you haven't been driving fast here, have you?
No, I don't drive fast anyway on the road anymore.
We're going to talk about why in a little while.
Yeah.
So that's my future. What we've been up to. I'm going on holiday. But yeah, I've been quite busy.
Yeah.
I think I need to stop saying yes to everything. It's like I just want to bring lots of content and, lots of different stuff. And it's a really difficult balance, isn't it? Between that and picking and choosing. I think the trips I've been on have all been worthwhile, but it's hard.
I think you do a great, I know a couple of episodes ago, I took the mickey out of you. And to be fair, in my defense, I felt really bad when I saw that episode because Patrick, as Patrick seems to do these days, he included that in the podcast. And I thought it was a bit of the off the record before sort of winding each other up. And then I saw it in the podcast and Lou actually listened to it and went, that's really mean. And I was like,
yes, he's really mean to me, Lou.
Yeah. No, but I did sound like an absolute, one of those. But I admire what you do. I was at a Volkswagen launch yesterday and I actually mentioned in my video that if it was non-stop all day and I couldn't deal with it, like it was too much. Whereas I knew if you were there, you would have just somehow made a slick video out of it. And I think that's at a launch, and I think you're very good at just going the amount of stuff you do. And I think also we're very lucky. We get invited to a lot of things. We go on a lot of trips. And there does get a point where you are luckily enough to be able to say no, or you're busy because you're doing another one. And so you get quite selective about it. And although we both are probably guilty of posting lots of stuff on the trips, making them look like the most amazing things, which they are in one hand, but trust me, they are always non-stop from the second you leave your house and sit in a traffic jam, which we'll talk about later on, get to the airport, and there's this, there's just so many things. You get to this gorgeous hotel most of the time, which you spend very little time. You literally sleep there, which I know that's the point of a hotel, but you don't get to experience it.
Yeah.
And there's all these things that you see on our, on our socials, but actually behind the scenes, we are sweating and working super hard. And before you know it, you're home and you're on the next one. And it's like...
Yeah, I mean, I'll give you an example. So I think it's quite interesting to take people behind the scenes really of these trips because all you see is either the stories that we make when we're there or the output that we create when we're there. But in fact, the video that's gone up today, 8 o'clock this morning, because there was a global embargo, I was in Germany last week with Dacia for a preview of the new Bigster, which is like their new compact SUV.
Yep.
Really, really interesting car because they start late 20s and even the top spec one's going to be early 30s for a 5-seat, a really well-equipped car, really impressive. Yep. Whether you like Dacia or not, that's another story, but you can't deny that it's an impressive car.
Yep.
However, I got my fingers burnt a little bit earlier this year because I went out to one of these events where there's a car launch with a brand, and by the time they'd done the reveal and there was like 500 people there all trying to take pictures, I got 20 minutes to try and get a video, and I wasn't actually able to make any content at all. So I wasted a whole day. The brand had wasted all the flights and all of that kind of stuff. So I'm a bit more careful now. So I said to Dacia, I said, look, I really want to come because I've done Dacia stuff on the channel before. It's done well. I like what you're doing with cars. I'm trying to do more affordable cars, so I really want to be there. I just need to make sure I know how much time I'm going to get with the car, because it was like a studio-style shoot.
Yep.
And they're really hard. I don't know about you, but I find them really difficult.
Oh, yeah, they are.
Because you can't drive it, so you instantly have a whole bunch of stuff to talk about taken away from you.
Yep.
You generally have a load of information given to you, which you have to distill, remember, and then repeat on camera, which is
moments before,
which is really hard.
Yeah,
unless you're Tim.
Yeah, yeah.
So I said, look, can I just make sure I've got some time with the car? And they were awesome. And I came back and said, we've got you an hour and a half on your own with a car.
Right.
I went, that's perfect. That's exactly what I need. So we flew in the day before. We get to the hotel about 5 or 6 o'clock. We have a meal, have a couple of beers, chat with all the team and stuff, and you go to bed, 11 o'clock, half 11, something like that. The hour and a half with the car was from 7 till 8:30 in the next morning. Right?
Yeah.
So we wake up, 5:30, 6 o'clock, get in the car, get to the studio, have my time with the car, and then we had the rest of the day. There were all kind of technical briefings and workshops and all that kind of stuff, and we left there at 4, get to the airport, flight's delayed by an hour, finally get home at midnight, which would be 1 o'clock European time. So I've been on the go all that time.
Yep.
And it's exhausting. And it's not woe is me or anything, but you'll watch my video that went up today. It's 20 minutes long.
Yep.
You don't see
all the work.
And it's funny, I got back, I was with Skoda this week in Prague, and last night Tracy was out, and I lay on the sofa last night watching a movie. I had the dog cuddled up next to me, and I fell asleep at 8 o'clock. I woke up at midnight when Tracy walked in, and I woke up this morning at 7 o'clock. So I've pretty much done 9 hours straight through.
I saw your post.
I was like,
yeah.
But yeah, so yeah, they are difficult things, but my aim is to try and bring a balance of content and across different brands and stuff. And sometimes people will watch the videos I do and the brand resonates with them and they really enjoy it. Other times it'd be a brand they don't like. Other times it'd be an electric car and they hate electric. Other times it'd be a petrol car and they hate petrol.
Yeah, you can't
really
please everyone, can you?
Just try and do a bit of everything.
Yeah.
But yeah, no. So I've travelled too much recently.
Yeah, that's all good. Like I said, I take my hat off to you. I think this year I've been personally, I've obviously had my health problems at the start of the year, and they haven't really fully gone away. In the last few weeks, I've had a few. They've kind of started creeping back again. You could probably hear my voice is even worse.
You're not alone. I've been struggling with an ongoing cold since February.
Yep.
And I'm still not right, and it's just really annoying.
It's not good, is it? All our immune systems are on the floor, and that compounds the sort of non-stop nature of everything. It makes it even harder. But anyway,
you need to start doing breath work and cold showers, mate, every day.
Oh, cold showers!
A cold shower every morning and breath work.
Mate, I can't. I'm so bad with the cold showers.
So I do 3 or 4 rounds of Wim Hof breath work every day.
Yeah,
and that's really good for oxygenating the blood and boosting your immune system.
Okay.
And then at the end of the shower, I just turn the knob all the way to cold.
Yep.
And just stay in there for a couple of minutes. And that's all about kind of getting your blood flow and all that.
Yep.
And
okay.
I feel better for it.
I'll start doing that.
Okay.
Eventually.
Yeah. And then also, if you start doing the cold exposure in an ice bath, that's good for burning fat.
Is it?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Well, I need to do some of that. So yeah.
Not that I'm saying.
Thanks, mate.
But no, because you were the king of travel, though. I used to watch it. You'd be out, and when you go away, I go away for like 1 or 2 days. You normally go away for like a whole week or a month or a long, long time.
Yeah.
So you were the king of travel, and you were the never at home.
I was, especially.
And then you bought a dog.
Then I brought a dog. I think, last year was, towards the back end of the year. In fact, it's almost been exactly a year since I left for Australia on that wonderful trip. Big shout out to Nick at BMW Australia. We are going to take the podcast out there.
We are, yeah. We're just waiting for the flight details.
Yeah, we're just waiting for Nick to sign everything off. Yeah, he's just talking to management as we speak. But no, it's. I think, yeah, and I just burnt myself out last year, and suddenly, it's like when you eat something that gives you food poisoning, or you do something that gives you a scare, whether it's
drink too much Southern Comfort when you're at university, never drink it ever
exactly
again.
That sort of thing. And I think that's kind of scared me a bit to travel. And now, whenever I fly, I love flying, and I still do a bit, but now I think of it more as like getting on a bus and going, and I don't like bus journeys. I don't like getting on a bus. So now I'm like, oh, and it's all the faff. And so I kind of see more of the negative side of it. But I think that's just me. As you said earlier on, off camera, what do you call me? A miserable...
Grumpy old kid.
Grumpy old kids. Yeah, I am. I really am.
Like,
I think this year I really am. I find it hard to see the positive side in a lot of things. But I will change. Yeah.
Hey, now, let me talk positive, because you, and we go back to travel, you and Pat were away back end of last week and over the weekend.
Yeah.
In France.
Yep.
In a car that I am desperate to drive, as are most petrol heads.
Yes.
And I'm so jealous. And I've seen the beginning of the film that you and Pat have made, and it is as good as anything you'll see on Top Gear or Henry Catchpole. It's superb.
Well, thank you, mate. That's a massive, massive compliment. I think that the rest of it, unfortunately, isn't that good because it's me talking. But well, I'm going to.
What's the car?
Well, so it's a I almost said a Ford Focus. Don't know where that came from. It's a Porsche 992 ST, and yeah, it's very special. But before we talk about that, I want to just rewind a little bit because I want to do it in order because my OCD is going a bit mad. I want to rewind to about a month ago, maybe 3 weeks ago, and Pat and I went on a BF Goodrich trip.
Oh, the camping one.
Wild camping trip, yes.
Mate, I was trying to avoid that one because that looked amazing because Moggy was on it.
Moggy was on it.
Yeah.
It was, mate, honestly, we did it. So last year was the first year they did it. We did it up in Scotland. And honestly, it was beautiful up near Inverness in the middle of nowhere, the Cairngorms. And it was beautiful, but the weather did...
Scotland.
Yeah, the weather put a dampener on things, excuse the pun. It really did. And the fact that most people had like amazing sort of Land Rovers with roof tents and stuff, and Pat and I think we purchased sleeping bags on the way up there, and we were given a 2-man tent, and it wasn't even that. I don't mind a bit of camping, but it was the floor. It wasn't the most comfortable couple of days, and Pat ended up doing his back in and all the rest of it.
Just to give some context to this conversation, Joe is the kind of person that takes his own pillow away.
Yes. Yeah. I struggle to sleep in a normal double on my own. I'm a really bad sleeper. But it was still a great trip. But then in comparison, this year was just, well, firstly, it was in the north of Spain, just the foothills of the Pyrenees. And it was just awesome. Everything about the trip was amazing. Obviously, we had the weather. The location, the Bacella experience, it's like an off-roading experience centre that they kind of based themselves at. Although it was a wild camping trip, Pat and I might have stayed in a hotel close by, but obviously that's not
the
petrol head tours hotel. Yeah, but
obviously lots of flies there.
Obviously
that's the flies out because when I was there last, the flies were just everywhere.
The flies. There was a few flies, but it wasn't. I've been there before when it's been worse.
Yeah.
Obviously, that's not public information that Patrick and I stayed in a hotel on a wild camping trip.
That is just...
But the ironic thing is...
that is.
Well, again, it was down to the fact that the majority of people there had their own four-wheel drives and we didn't. We borrowed one, but it didn't have a roof tent and stuff. But the ironic thing was that when we the hotel was lovely, but then when we got to the actual campsite where they were based, me and Pat went, and we saw the teepees. They were like luxury... We were both like... Oh. I wouldn't mind staying here, but it was just wicked, and it always blows my mind. But I know you've probably done a lot more off-roading than I have, but you know, predominantly we do a lot of road stuff, and I understand road tyres reasonably well, Michelin road tyres. But off-roading always blows my mind what a set of tyres can do, and to put things into perspective, and I did actually film a YouTube video that I haven't edited yet, but it will go out before Christmas.
For you?
Yeah, it will go out before Christmas 28. But basically, we were in a 2003 KN turbo, so first generation, very early turbo.
Well known for its off-road credentials.
Well, yes. I don't know if that was sarcasm or not.
It was.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Ironically, exactly as you say, 99% of owners would never have taken it more than on a pavement in Chelsea. But the ironic thing is they are very capable. And then you add to that, you put a set of BFG all-terrains on there, and it becomes, it turns from a reasonably or very capable vehicle into something that was just ridiculously capable. And that's the only modifications this car had was the tyre upgrade. And we were keeping up with, the most extreme Grenadiers and Land Rovers and all sorts. But anyway, it was a wicked experience. And it was so well organised. Hats off to Martin, James and Natalie that were involved in that, because, we talk a lot off record about how most press trips could be organised better to cater for everyone. But this trip from the start to the finish was just brilliant.
I was mildly jealous of that one. But one where you were two on off-roading anyway, the views and especially when you're up on the top of the escarpment and the kind of valley below.
That was scary up there as
well. And it was really annoying because, I was flicking through socials and I saw Moggy was on his way down there. He drove down in his electric Defender, which that was absolutely epic. Actually.
Yep.
The Over the Rover was there in a blue tit.
Yep.
I love watching her content, and then you're there as well.
And she's just, if she's listening to this,
you need to come on the pod.
We need to get on the pod.
We met at a Festival of Speed and said, you got to come on the pod, so we need to get on the pod.
She's a wonderful person. She's completely genuine and just a lovely person.
Yeah.
As was everyone on that trip, in fact.
Yeah. Moggy's an idiot.
Oh yeah, Moggy's. He is wild, isn't he?
Yeah. Oh,
he is absolutely.
It was the launch control at the bottom of that massive hill, and then just launching off.
It looked fast on camera. Like, honestly, that was such a steep slope that most four-wheel drives would just about get over it. And that thing almost did launch off the top of it. Unbelievable. But his determination, his face. And I was like, mate, I said, you could see the devil in you. Like you could see, and he's like, no, I'm in control. I'm like, no, like you could just see his determination. And at the other end of the scale, what you couldn't see at that point was obviously Martin, who was there, sort of in charge of everything and overseeing everything. Martin was there just going, right, that's no more. And everyone's like, one more. And he's like, no, that's it. Like, we need to, there's got to be some kind of health and safety here. But next, honestly, mate, it would have been the sort of trip that you would have absolutely loved. So I hope that you get to experience that.
Two future podcasts, because we've already been messaging Moggy. We're going to go down to the workshop and do an episode with him.
Yep.
And we'd love to have...
Over the Rover.
Over in the Rover,
sorry, yes. Yeah. Fantastic, absolutely.
Okay.
And then, so we did that. Then I actually...
I don't do many trips, he says. I don't go...
No, but that's what I mean. The last month has been pretty crazy. And then Lou and I went away to the Alps. So Lou had booked a week off work. My parents were looking after Peggy. So so I was like, okay... I was going to bring the M2 because I've got the M2 in my garage. It's been used 3 times this year. And I'm like, I've got to put some miles on it. Let's take it on a road trip. And then right at the last moment, I was like, oh God, I think 2,000 miles in that might be a bit uncomfortable. So then I was like, okay, what car? Right, let's speak to James at Porsche, see if they've got anything pretty cool that I can take and obviously film some content on. And he was like, I've got a Boxster GTS 4-litre. So basically your car.
Yeah, I'm surprised you had enough room
with a slightly smaller cabin.
Yeah.
Which is ironic, because so we took that, which I think arguably, the Boxster in general, it's always been such a great platform. I'm not a convertible sort of person. I don't get excited by convertible cars, but the Boxster platform was originally built to be it was a Boxster from day one, wasn't it? The Cayman came 10 years later. So as always, the first gen was brilliant, and the very latest generation that you've got, the 718, is obviously even better. It's so stiff. It works so well. It's practical. As I was messaging you sort of a few days before, Ped, is there a rear boot? You're like, yeah, of course there is. And actually, it's brilliant, isn't it? It's
massive.
Loads of, and the frunk, I'm sure that's bigger than most 911s. It's
it is.
Really big.
Yeah.
But anyway, so we took that away. Epic trip. Unfortunately, horrific weather, and I did my back after 2 days in the Boxster. It had the sports seats, and I think I was just hunching over a bit in them. And although they're probably very good for a lot of frames, I think my lanky frame It just didn't suit those seats very well, and I could never really get comfortable. So I'm not going to entirely blame the car or the seats, but ironically, I think I find bucket seats like the ones in my M3 or the ones in the ST that we're going to talk about, I find those much more comfortable on really long journeys, because once you're in them, you can let your body just relaxes, doesn't it? Because it's so supported.
Yeah.
Whereas when you're in like something like this seat, you're constantly trying to. So it was an awesome trip, but let down by weather. Then we came back, and literally a couple of days later, Pat and I set off in the 911 ST. We went down to the middle of France to some amazing roads that I've kind of discovered over the years, especially last year when I was down there on the motorbike and avoiding the toll routes. And you find these, essentially they're the old main roads, but they're maintained, so they're perfect, and no one uses them.
Yeah.
So they are just unbelievable. And we went down there and shot a video on that car. Again, much thanks to Michelin UK who helped with all the expenses of that trip, because as you know, a lot of these sort of, if you're doing a sort of full production, it does cost a lot of money. But we found a brilliant location. We found some great time. So we need to go back there next year together and film some really cool, I think we could do like a really cool twin car test down there or something, and just enjoy it. And also the place we stayed at was actually, just one second. That's for you, mate.
Oh, look, almost too.
It was was owned by a champagne house, because it was right in the middle of the Champagne region. Apparently is an award-winning bottle of their champagne. So we thought we'd get you a bottle of that, because I know you like your champagne.
I do love our champagne. To be fair.
Yeah. Put you slightly better in the good books with tea. Obviously.
Yeah, I'll there you go.
Sorry, I've been away so much.
Sorry, I've been away. I'll give you a bottle of champagne. Joe and Pat bought you a bottle of champagne. Oh, very nice. It did look really nice. I have to say, mate, your ability to find amazing Airbnbs and places to stay is unsurpassed. I don't know how you do it, because I know when I did my trip, when we went to see Adele, I kind of said, "Oh, have you got any ideas where we can stay?"
Yeah,
and you gave me a few, but it just didn't work. Where they were didn't quite work out. But one was full and the other one was too far away.
Yeah, I think a lot of it is luck and timing, but it's just investing in quite a lot of time. As you know, it's not easy booking somewhere that's convenient. But this one, in fact, I rung Pat, because Pat's, I would say, equally, if not better, at that as well. And we had a phone call a few days before, about a week before, and we're going through places we found, and we both found the same place. So I was like, oh, that's kind of like fate. We have to,
it did look good.
Honestly, mate, this courtyard we had, it was literally like, it was a sleepy town, so there was no noises anywhere. We were lucky with the weather. But in terms of when we got there and we pulled into the courtyard, we're like, oh my God, this is all ours. And it's like, you just don't get that, do you? Like this ability to film with no distractions. But yeah, and as far as the car goes, it's no secret, every people that filmed it, it's absolutely amazing. I would say, without spoiling the video though, if you look at what they're reselling for now, $420, I think the cheapest, or $430, most of them around $450 mark. Whether they're selling for that or not, I don't know. And you look at a 911 Touring 992, and they're now in the 160s, 170s. Is it worth nearly 3 or 2.5 to 3 times more? No way. And I concluded in the video that, if it was my money, I'd rather have a GT3 with a wing PDK for track day and a GT3 Touring manual for my road car, and probably $100,000. When you put it like that, it's. But if you had 100 million in the bank, you're going to go and get the ST because it is better. It's like so many cars where they build a really special model. It's like, it's not worth that. Well, actually, it kind of is.
Do you think there's got to be a tuning house out there that's going to bring out a clutch and gear gate upgrade for a GT3 Touring to make it more ST-like, to give it that lightweight flywheel and the short throw? I know the car's more than that because it's got the GT3 RS engine in it.
Yes, yep.
But from a driving engagement point of view, is the GT3 RS engine above a standard GT3 Touring engine that much different, that much better?
From my understanding, it's only that much better in terms of the way the oil is circulated and stuff. It's got some trickery for when you're tracking it with aero, and so the loads are much higher, which is kind of, not really needed in the ST, because you're probably not going to track it. Although I've heard a few people have already been, and good work to them, because I'm sure it's amazing on track. But yeah, I think it's a combination, because it is so fast, that car, and it does feel noticeably quicker. And I think it's a combination of the short final drive, which I think you can modify, at least on cars like the GT4, Cayman and stuff. You can get a short drive. So short drive, final drive, the single mass flywheel, and the light, and the fact it's 50 kilos lighter or whatever. I think those three, even though they're small changes, when you add them all up, and the fact it's the RS engine, it's unreal. Like, even on the last day, like Pat and I were both driving it, obviously, and every time we got in it, we just looked at each other and giggled. Top of second, top of third, even fourth. It's just like, this is just great. But it's also the sound. We both agreed that it's the visceral, crazy sound. You can hear everything going on. You can hear the induction. You can hear rattles and noises, and it's all of that it enhances the whole experience even more. You haven't driven it?
Not yet, no, okay. But it's incoming.
Good. Well, I don't want to. I look forward to hearing what you say about it, but it gets under your skin so much that it's just like, in a way, I was happy to give it back because it was in one piece, but in a way, I was just like, that's.
It's got its quirks though, because it's a bit, but pull away is a bit like the Carrera GT, right? You have to be super careful with the clutch.
Yeah, you do. It does have its quirks. I was like, James called me a couple of days before, James from Porsche GP. He just said, look, mate, be very careful with the clutch. And obviously I'd watched videos, I'd read things about it. And he said, basically just don't use any throttle. But since I've also heard from various big magazine outlet journos on a launch yesterday, not going to name any names, that a couple of people in the early launches and days with one of their first, I think they had another one, they were doing like multiple launch controls with it. So and being a Porsche, they've claimed it does 0 to 62 in 3.7 seconds. It does have launch control because, again, without a spoiler, no, I'm not going to, I pretend to do a launch control in my video just to get James sweating a little bit, but obviously don't do it because it has the, you put your foot on the clutch. No, sorry, put your foot on the accelerator in first gear, and it goes like that. So it will launch. They're just getting
it's a selfie. Yeah. The local police are doing a selfie. That is brilliant. That's so funny.
But yeah, so there were people that were doing launch controls with it, and guess what? After doing 10 hard launch controls, the clutch fell out. Well, that's no surprise, is it? So I think it's not as fragile, and it doesn't feel it, does it, Pat? It felt pretty strong, but you will be. And every time I pulled away, I was like just babying it because it's like the last. Well, yeah, we're driving it like we're doing the we've got plenty of clutch practice with the Passat on the long distance. Yeah.
Passat.
Yes. Obviously, it wasn't as cool as the Passat, but
I'm very jealous.
But yeah, no, it's brilliant car. And then yesterday, I don't know when this pod's going out, so I can't talk about driving impressions. But I went to Berlin to the Lausterzing. I don't know. I'm going to butcher that name. But for the GTI Club Sport and the Golf R launch, which was great fun, really cool. Yeah. And it was 22 degrees, and I actually got a bit sunburned. Which, I mean, Germany, middle of October, really.
Yeah. I tell you, I went around Wolfsburg, did the factory tour.
Yes,
a couple of weeks ago, and they had the Golf R Black editions on the assembly line. And your story, you mentioned. How cool do they look?
Yeah,
and they've got that Akrapovic exhaust upgrade that you can have.
Yep.
Oh, mate.
Yeah, it looks. I mean,
looks mega.
Looks great. I would probably not over. I think the problem with black cars is they look great when they're new.
And you got to clean them with the swirls everywhere.
Then you got to clean them.
He says, owning a black car.
That's it. Yeah. But yeah, interesting cars. Without talking about driving impressions, they've addressed, as we know already, actually, because the Golf GTI is out, and it's not secret what those cars got. But the infotainment system is the big, because the Mark 8s were brilliant cars in both the GTI Club Sport and R, but they were let down by their infotainment system, because without that system, you couldn't ignore it because it kind of controlled everything, your climate and all. So if it wasn't working or if it was being buggy, it ruined the whole car. Whereas they've absolutely sorted that out. And
so we went out for Tehran, like one of these studio shoot things, but we drove from the airport to the venue in a 8.5 GTI.
Oh, okay.
So yeah, good.
Nice.
I didn't film it, annoyingly.
Yeah.
It was good.
Oh, that's unlike you. Normally cameras are out. You need those sunglasses with the cameras in them. Who had that?
Oh no, that was George.
George, yeah. Yeah. You literally need them, Ped. So everywhere you go, yeah, you can record everything.
But at least you went all that way and you could drive the car that you went to drive.
Yeah. Yeah. What? Yeah. I wasn't sure if you're going to bring that one up, Ped.
Well, yeah. The video hasn't gone out yet, but yeah, I had a disappointing time in Prague this week.
Yeah.
Well, it was because I went out there to drive a very, very cool prototype race car, and unfortunately, we weren't able to drive the very cool prototype race car because someone ran out of talent about half an hour before we got there. But we did have some fun in an Enyaq VRS with Oliver Solberg, who is with a good chance of winning the WRC this year.
Yes.
What a lovely guy.
Is he?
He's just he's so funny. We just properly had a good laugh.
Whereas old man was always funny on camera, a bit of a clown at times. So I can imagine his son's like a chip off the old block.
Just absolutely brilliant. Because and we delaminated a set of tyres. It was great fun.
As long as they weren't Michelin.
They weren't Michelin. No. It was all right. It was quite funny because I made a comment about he had a Monster hat on, and I said, "Oh, you got your branding in there." And I had a Michelin top on. I went, "Yeah, I've got Michelin." And he went, "Yeah, you can't say that because I'm Pirelli." And then we both laughed and we went, "Yeah, but the tyres on the car are neither of those, so we can shred them."
Brilliant.
No, so that was a shame. But if we go back to Porsche, I had the Taycan Turbo.
Yes.
Recently.
Green, a beautiful green one.
It was oak green metallic.
Oak green. Your favourite colour?
My favourite colour with truffle interior, which was a bit. I prefer like a kind of cream.
Or was it a bit too dark?
It was a bit too dark, but it grew on me and it had these lovely gold accents.
That sort of
no. It was like darker than your shoes. It was It was anyway. But I had that car, and one of the things that when that video went up is the amount of comments that were about the depreciation of not just Taycan but cars in general. So we thought we would have a chat about car depreciation.
Yep.
And it's such a massive subject. I've just seen the time. We've been gassing on a long time. It's going to be a long podcast. So I guess the big challenge, I'm going to start by saying I've never bought a new car in my life because of the depreciation that you see in the first year of pretty much any car. There are very few cars out there that are depreciation proof.
Yep.
I think the only car I've ever bought that hasn't really suffered any was a Caterham. I bought that, ran it for a year and sold it for exactly the same money I bought it for.
Yep.
But we thought we'd have a chat about depreciation and start off by, I guess, what are the factors that lead to depreciation? But then we've thought it might be fun to do a bit of a challenge and find some really good, highly depreciating cars that are bargains to buy, basically.
Although, to be fair, so Patrick came up with this idea, and both Ped and I have kind of
butchered it,
not understood it completely. So it's going to be a bit of a freestyle, but I think it's still going to be interesting all the same.
I mean, it is a fact that you buy a brand new car and they lose value the second you roll them off the forecourt.
Yeah.
But I've always been intrigued by why some cars hemorrhage money and some don't. And often it's got nothing to do with who makes the car, because if you look at someone like a BMW, there are some BMWs that hemorrhage money and some that don't.
Yeah.
And Porsche, everyone was having a go at the Taycan. Porsche are probably one of the brands that's known for not really losing very much money.
Yeah.
Especially 911, it's one of the least depreciating cars you can buy.
Yep.
Yet Taycan does.
Yep.
Maybe there's an element to do with the fact that that's an EV.
Yeah. It's a hard one. Firstly, going back to the whole buying new, because I know you haven't, and I have financed new. I've never actually bought a car outright new because I haven't had the money. But I think when you finance a car, let's say PCP, you're already upfronting that depreciation, right? And I think I was talking about depreciating cars. Let's use the Taycan as an example. If you're going to finance a Taycan and you can afford the monthlies and the deposit, and it's a 3-year whatever PCP, then you don't need to worry about how much or how little it depreciates, because at the end of that 3 years, you can hand the car back, right?
Yeah.
So I think that's one thing
And
that
you get all the tax breaks.
and you get all the tax breaks and all the rest of it. So I think that's one thing. Providing you can afford that payment, whether it's a company car or whether it's a personal car, it doesn't matter if you're on a PCP, because at the end of that term, if it has taken even more of a fall than the finance company had predicted, then that's their problem. It's not yours anymore. So that's, I think that's one thing.
Can I add a but? To that isn't a sustainable model for the finance company or the manufacturer, though.
No, it's not.
Someone, yes, you can hand the car back. Someone's taking a hit on that.
Yeah.
And it's probably the finance company.
Yep.
So what that will mean is, going forward, the finance of cars becomes more expensive.
Yep.
So they cover their arse.
Yep.
So, the really amazing finance deals that were around, I don't know, 5 years ago,
Yeah.
they're just few and far between them.
Yep.
And it's you'll normally see, I'm going to think about Alpine, they were doing on the A110 0% finance a few months ago, right?
Yeah.
And it's because they've probably got loads in stock they need to get rid of.
Yep.
But they're few and far between now.
They are. Yeah. Yeah. I think also, I think the last couple of years, finance rates, all the rest of it together have really exaggerated everything we're seeing today, right? Although I think now we're starting to see things sort of relatively come back down to normal. Or fuel prices are something else we need to talk about.
Oh, yeah. When I posted my 128.
I love going to a fuel station now. It's like,
I know.
Electricity prices are going like that and fuel prices are going like that.
It's not in the news, though, and I don't really understand why it suddenly got so cheap. I only reckon, this is going to come across, I never really look. Right, seriously, and that's a very privileged position to be in. I just turn up to the fuel station, fill my car up, and just just do the swipe thing with your card. And it never really registers.
I'm a stickler for.
Do you drive around the block and try and find the cheapest fuel?
Well, I know where we live, we're near 2 big towns, and between the 2 towns there's probably 7 or 8 petrol stations. So we always know the cheaper ones. But I will always go slightly out of my way to pay more out of principle. There was an Esso near us that was so overpriced for so long, and guess what? It never ever had. I mean, it had the occasional petrol ped in there, but aside from him, there was no one else in there. And then guess what? They then leveled their prices to what everyone else, and now it's constantly busy. So, but So
we're lucky. Our nearest station, which is Texaco, I think, is always super cheap.
Yeah, nice. I saw 120. It was a Sainsbury's. I saw 123.9 at the Reading Sainsbury's next to Porsche the other day.
Wow.
That was obviously just regular 95, but that's But anyway, I've gone somehow deviated here.
Well, I know it's all about. So the other thing about depreciation is, I mean, the big chatting point about that in comments at the moment is all about EVs, right?
Yeah.
They depreciate like a stone.
Yeah.
And that is true for a lot of EVs, but it's not an exclusive problem to electric vehicles. So we thought we would have a look.
Yep.
So shall we start? I think we both found a very similar article online, actually.
Yep.
You can tell it's serious. I'm getting my laptop out.
Yeah. I might get mine just for
so you
just for visuals.
Yeah. So you look like you're actually taking this seriously. I found an article, and it's from earlier this year, but I can't imagine it's not still reasonably accurate, about the 10 fastest depreciating cars in the UK. And it's quite interesting because it gives the average new price and the average retained price after 3 years. And honestly, some of them are just really bad.
Yeah.
We thought we'd just have a bit of a chat about this. And then I think what we've both done is try to find a few really good cars on a car reselling website that might well be Auto Trader.
Yep.
Just to see, and it is a fun game to play because I think when you buy, I remember we bought a Discovery 3 years ago, and I just remember how much it was cheaper than the brand new version. It was only 9 months old, ex-demo, and it just still made me smile because you think someone's taken a bath there.
Yep.
Talking about a bath, the first one I thought we might talk about is, well, it's not the Abarth version, but Fiat 500, which is the 10th most depreciating car in the UK, which is surprising.
Wow. Yeah, well, it is surprising because it's normally big depreciating cars are a higher price point.
That's why I thought I'd start with this one. It's normally the big things with big engines, high price point.
Yep.
And this is the electric Fiat 500, by the way.
Okay. Yep.
Average new price 28 grand. Average price after 3 years 9.
That's a third. Exactly a third of the price.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Wow.
And that because everyone's going to go, they do Taycans, and you talk about like the high end BMWs and all that kind of stuff, and it's not always those. And I just think that's lose 20 grand in 3 years on a Fiat 500.
That is nuts. Absolutely nuts.
Which, bearing in mind, you could probably lose 20 grand on a Taycan in the first week.
Yes,
but we're talking about as a proportion of the amount you pay.
Well, that's nearly 70% of the value, whereas the Taycan, it's 10%.
Exactly.
Well,
super
20%.
Scary. Yeah, super scary. Mind you, Audi A6.
Yep.
9th most depreciating. Average new price of an Audi A6, 56 grand.
Yep.
Average retained value after 3 years, 18.
Wow.
32%.
That's great. I seem to remember I chose an Audi A6 in one of our recent...
Oh, the Grandad spec one, yeah.
Oh, yes.
Oh,
yes.
What did your research find? What was your... your scary ones?
Well, I sort of, like I said, I interpreted this mission a little bit differently. So I went on to Auto Trader, and I thought I'd have I kind of went for a few, not left field cars, but let's just choose. So I've got here, and this is just one of so many. BMW i5 hasn't been around long, right?
And that's the electric 5 Series.
It's the electric 5 Series. Been on sale for less than a year, I reckon.
Yeah.
So this is a 73 plate car. So again, couldn't be more than a year old. So it's probably quite an early car. 13,000 miles at main dealer. Now, what drew me to this particular advert, and don't worry, it's not Berry BMW, although I'm sure they've got some pretty good deals going as well.
Your price tracker still works. I thought they'd removed that.
Yeah, no, you can get it back.
Oh.
Yeah, price tracker.
Oh, man, that's the best feature on Auto Trader ever. So sad on and removed it, didn't they?
Yeah, so this car was originally on sale at this main dealership. They put it towards the end of October, almost exactly a year ago, in fact. Right,
that car's been on sale for a year.
Yeah. So it was £91,500 back then,
no.
right? So because it's a top spec, it's a 40 M Sport Pro, but it's fully optioned, fully loaded. Since then, it's gone from 91.5 to 87 to 85 to 81 to 79 to 78, 75, 74, 73, 71, 70, 68, 62, 60, 59, 58. It's now £58,000. That is a reduction of 37%, and the car has just sat still. So that nearly 100, that would have been 100 grand new. It was originally 91 as an approved. It's now 58 grand, and they still haven't got rid of it. So, I mean, that is a tumbling car. And like I said,
at that price, that's good money, I think.
At 58 grand, and like we say a lot on this podcast,
because it's a really good car. It's an electric car. It's a good.
As a 40, and I think the 40, as with the majority of BMWs, in my opinion, the lower output models like the 40s are better than the ones that they're pretending to market as an M car, because they're more efficient, they're more comfortable, and they're cheaper.
Yeah.
But I mean, as you say, for 50, you could probably walk in there. You could probably offer them 50 for that, and they'll be like, "Let's just get it out."
I wonder why. And this is the bit, and I don't know the answer to this. It's kind of an open question, really. And if anyone does have an opinion, stick it in the comments. Why is that particular car so prone to depreciation? Is it just sometimes it's oversupply?
Yep.
is it just that there's no market for it? It's too expensive in the first place. A combination of all those things, probably.
Too expensive in the first place. I think everything we see on the used market in general is the market resetting itself. And, you know, whether it's like really sought after cars like a 992 GT3, they've been overpriced for the last couple of years. They're now settling. And although they're still fetching what they were new, that's kind of where they're at, you know, like McLarens, I think, slightly overpriced. They depreciate very quickly in the first couple of years. Everything kind of levels out. And I think that's what we're seeing. Like, really, that was 100. It's nowhere near a top spec 5 Series.
Yeah.
And it was £100,000. I mean, seriously, what were they smoking?
Yeah.
But again, in their defense, they have to charge these because, you know, the technology, the batteries, the motor costs a lot of money, but it was never worth £100,000.
No.
And the only person that probably bought that and ran it for 6 months was a company director or something.
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean,
I guess there's a few things that there's. I mean, if you're making cars to order, so the way Porsche have always managed to hold their prices up, is they only make cars when someone's actually ordered one and they make it to spec. McLaren screwed up because they just made cars and then just gave them to dealers and told them to buy them. Right? So they were creating oversupply instantly, and then they messed up by just people not knowing when the next McLaren was going to come out, and all of that added to like a toxic soup that made their cars drop money.
Yep.
Caterham, you know, I know it's a slightly different thing, but they always hold their price up because they only really want you to, if you want to sell it, you sell it back to Caterham. They kind of manage the supply and they don't do discounts.
No.
If you walk into a Caterham showroom and there's a car there for 25 grand, it's 25 grand.
Yeah.
If you don't buy it for 25 grand, someone else will.
Yeah.
They won't go, we'll give it for 20. And I think the problem is there's a lot of these brands, you know, they'll give these big dealer contributions and it's just straight away, well, if you give it once, you have to give it every time.
Yeah, people expect it.
And then you've devalued your product.
Yep.
I mean, we're not BMW bashing here, but the most depreciating car in the UK, according to this article here, is the 8 Series BMW.
Yep.
Right? This will scare you. So the average new price of an 8 Series BMW is £133,000.
Right.
Okay. The average retained value after 3 years, 34 grand.
100 grand basically off.
Yeah, it's 26%. So I thought, I'm having a bit of that. I'm going to go and find one. So I went on to Auto Trader and I found this one, right? Now, it's the V8, it's the M850, which I've driven, mega car, I'm sure you have as well. Yeah. It's in a pretty striking purple.
Yes.
It's a 2020 car, so I guess in terms of warranty, you've not got the standard warranty left because that's only 3 years for BMW.
Yeah.
But it's only done 8,000 miles and it's 55.
What a car for 55 grand.
I know.
Again, like, you know, are you buying that i5 or are you buying
30 grand?
And look at it.
It does have a downside.
Oh.
Let me just
the interior.
show you the downside.
Oh, no.
You ready for the interior?
Oh no. It's not red or something, is it, with the purple? Oh my
Sorry,
goodness.
I've just been sick in my mouth. Who specs a red interior with a purple exterior?
Only Tony
Stevie
Lewis
Wonder?
Tony Lewis. That's dog dick red as well, man. That's
really bad.
Horrible.
But I mean, it's not the only one though. So the depreciation thing, the conversation, you can look at it two ways. You can look at it and go, oh my God, you know, you lose so much money when you buy a new car, or you look at it as a massive opportunity.
Yeah.
To get a lot of car for like Taycan, I use the word approachable money.
Yeah.
You have to be really careful with that because a used Taycan, a decent one, still 50, 60,000 quid.
Yeah.
But that will have been £120,000 car new.
Sure.
So that was one I thought, that's punchy. So I thought, what Taycan can I find?
Yeah.
Right? Now that's a much nicer colour, right? This is a 2022 car.
Gentine, is that Gentine blue?
I don't know whether it is Gentian blue. It looks a bit lighter than that.
Okay.
But this is the Sport Turismo, which is my favourite one. It's the 4S.
Yep.
Sport Turismo, 9,500 miles, 65 grand.
Wow.
Now
what year is that?
2022. It's 2 years old.
So it's still got Porsche.
Still got Porsche warranty.
Yeah.
You can add Porsche warranty. Obviously, at the end of 3 years, you can buy some more Porsche warranty. It's not from a Porsche garage. Interestingly, it's from Redline, who work with Podium.
Yeah, okay.
So, in fact, both of those cars are both from Redline by pure coincidence. But I mean, that it's a beautiful car. It's a beautiful interior. Really lovely kind of blue exterior.
Perfect
interior. Look at that.
Even nice wheels, which a lot of Taycans don't have. Yeah, that's contrasts very well. I mean, that is the benefit, isn't it, of all these depreciating cars? Is if you're sensible and you're all right to buy used. I mean, that's a really nice car, providing the 200-mile range is going to be good enough.
Well, yeah, that's the problem. That's not the late. So you've just driven the new Taycan, as have I, and it's range-wise, it's
much improved
for a 700 horse, because I had the turbo, you had the base. It's 300 miles, no worries at all, and it charges up really, really
and that makes
rapidly.
a huge difference. I've always said to myself, an EV has to, once it hits 300 miles, even for the likes of us who do a lot of miles, that makes a big difference. Because you get in a 200-mile car on a cold day that's raining, and suddenly it's a 170, and then you do a short journey, and then you're at 100, and that's when you rate. Whereas, you just 200 is just too.
And I think the problem with EVs, a lot of people have misconceptions about battery longevity. They're like, oh, well, when the battery goes, how much is that going to be to replace? Well, my answer to you would be, let's say that was a Panamera. How much is the engine to replace on a Panamera?
Yeah.
It's going to be like 40 grand probably.
Yeah.
And a battery pack's going to be about probably a bit
40 grand.
So it's no different really. But I think what we are finding is battery packs are lasting a lot longer than we ever thought they would.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's just a really interesting one. So that have you got any what?
No, well, I was gonna. So there is. Did you get invited to the Audi Q8 e-tron launch from?
No,
and neither did I. And it's interesting because all manufacturers, and it's not just Audi, but Audi especially, have really been focused on inviting influencers. And yes, I said that right, influencers. They've gone down the whole more lifestyle media to certain launches.
Yeah.
So if they know that a car is going to do disastrously well and not sell, they're going to invite the influencers, because the influencers will run around saying it's brilliant. Whereas you and I, especially me, I think with something like that, would maybe point out some of the obvious negatives, which if someone's buying a car, they already probably know, and they need to be reinforced that. They don't need someone going around going, oh, look at it, it's amazing, because that does nothing.
Yeah.
So anyway, so it's probably no coincidence that neither of us were invited on this 2-week rotation that Audi UK had for the Audi Q8 e-tron. But it's you see how they're doing now. Firstly, sales numbers are on the floor on new cars, but used ones, again, this one, it's a 73 plate car. It's done 859 miles, so delivery mileage.
859 miles.
859 miles. It's the 300 kilowatt, the 55. So I think 114. Yeah, so it's got the big battery in it. It's a sport. So this was originally listed at a main dealer on the 1st in January this year for 79 grand. I'm not going to do what I just did with the last car and go through them, because this list is even longer.
It's like,
it's now,
we need to sell it. We really need to sell it. No, we really need to sell it.
It's now 51 grand. Bear in mind, it's just sat there. So it's lost 35% of its value, or 27.5 grand.
And
so
it's a delivery miles car.
It's a delivery miles car. It's probably got less, because I think you find a lot of cars that have got listed with around 1,000 miles. You actually get to the dealership, they're like, oh, it's only got 50, because they're not allowed to. A lot of these Germans aren't allowed to sell approved cars with less than 1,000 miles in it.
Yeah.
So they'll list it with like 900 miles. Then you get there, it's like, oh, actually, so it's got 60 miles, because it's actually just been sitting in they've just, all they've done is registered it at the beginning of the year.
Oh my God.
So yeah, that is another lemon, but it's no surprise, because the original e-tron is such a depreciating disaster as well.
Yeah.
So yeah,
I've got one final one, and then we'll move on. Otherwise, we just do this game all day long.
Yeah, and we're at an hour.
Oh yeah, okay.
Yeah.
I chose this one because of your BF Goodrich.
Okay.
Actually, so did you have a drive of a Grenadier, or
I didn't.
There was some on the rotation.
Yeah, there was. I didn't on this trip, but I did on last year in Scotland.
Yeah, right. Good off road.
Yes.
Not so good on road.
Yes.
Right. But they are. There's lots of bargains out there.
Are there?
Yeah. Yeah. So, if delivery mile cars are like 90, 95 grand, something like that.
Yep.
But I found one for 50 grand.
What? And it's only got
3,800 miles on the clock. It's a year old. 50 grand.
Oh my goodness.
Now, at 50 grand, I reckon that's a really good car. Because it was always, when Jim Ratcliffe announced Grenadier, it was going to be an affordable utility vehicle that was going to be in the kind of 45 to 50,000 pound mark. And you can get them used. I mean, at the moment they're not making them because the factory's shut.
Yeah. Well, that doesn't look good for them, does it?
Well, until Jim Ratcliffe gets his finger out of his pocket and buys Recaro, because that's why it's closed.
Oh, what the seats?
Because they've got Recaro seats, and Recaro have gone bust. They've gone into liquidation, so they've had to shut the factory till next year. That's the story.
That's the story. I've not heard that before, but to me it stinks.
Yeah. So they're not making them because
to me
because it's got Recaro
I think
seats.
they're not making them because they're not selling them personally.
Maybe. But yeah, 50 grand for a Grenadier. It's quite a nice spec as well.
Yeah. Is that a petrol or diesel?
Diesel, 3 litre diesel.
Yeah. So what I love about them both is BMW engines.
Yeah.
Which
and even BMW gear knob.
And gear knob. Exactly. Yeah. Wow. Okay. Well, that's interesting.
So
before we wrap, I need to ask you a quick question.
Uh-oh.
So I thought, when we're talking about the worst selling cars, and I said, I think that was from Motor One originally. Yeah. It wasn't. Motor One had published a different list.
Yeah.
A couple of weeks ago, and it is the worst selling cars in terms of units globally in the third quarter of this year. Right. So the first two.
This is the number of cars sold.
Number of units and number of cars sold. So the first two are hydrogen cars. So probably no surprise. The Hyundai Nexo and the Toyota Mirai. Yeah.
Brilliant car.
Yeah, I'm sure. Yeah. But you can kind of understand.
Surprised because there's only like 10 hydrogen fuel stations.
Well, exactly. So you kind of expect that.
Yeah.
But the third worst selling car in the world in the third quarter, I'm not even going to get you to guess because we'll be here for 6 months. Although we have talked about it. I'll give you a clue. We have talked about it today.
Grenadier?
No. Because we're sort of pushing the time, I'm going to tell you it is the Fiat 500.
No way.
439 units.
Is that the electric one?
Well, it just says Fiat 500.
That's bad.
So I don't know whether that's either way.
500.
439, not even
so
world.
When I was at Wolfsburg last week, the Wolfsburg factory can make 4,000 cars a day.
Yeah. And I'm sure at one point Fiat were probably selling 5,500 a day. In the heyday.
If you want one, you could buy that one for £10,000. 11. It's a
if you lived in London though, and you wanted just a cheap runaround, and you had
it's a third of its value after.
That would be a great little runaround.
No.
For 10 grand, you wouldn't care about it, would you?
Have we got time to rant?
Yeah, what are we ranting about?
Idiots crashing cars.
Oh yeah, let's finish on that. Let's finish. And I don't like the fact that we're almost publicising.
I'm not going to give him any airtime.
The bell end anymore.
But we're going to talk about two idiots crashing McLarens and making content on the internet. But it's in general. We've talked about driving standards on this podcast a few times, but for me, this one, it just absolutely, I think there's boiled my
piss.
Yeah.
No, and me and Patrick and I actually saw it while we were away because it was like 3-4 days ago or something.
American influencer driving a McLaren down a road that was absolutely drenched in water.
Yep.
Peeing it down with rain.
I reckon
on his phone.
Looking at the clip, I reckon he was doing at least 80 miles an hour.
Yeah.
Maybe 90 or 100 because he was overtaking slower moving traffic, like it was standing still.
Yep. On his phone.
Yep.
And then he aquaplanes.
But not just on his phone. Not that this is any better. Well, I guess it kind of is. If someone's on their phone up there and they've got a peripheral, he's on his phone, the wheel's there, and he's on his phone like that. And then
the bit that so he crashes his car, and then the next bit of content he's put online, he gets someone to film him being pulled out the car, or he's trying selfie view, and then he does a walk round of his car, and his mate is being assisted out the car, blood all over him.
Yep.
And I'm like,
he's screaming at his mate to film, to hold his camera and film.
and how so the question is, how the hell is America so lax? Because I see lots of American creators that film themselves holding a camera. It's obvious they're holding a camera.
Yeah.
Stradman's probably the worst for it.
Yeah.
And they don't get, they just don't seem to have any recourse. Because if that happened in the UK, if he wasn't in front of a court and given a custodial sentence, I'd be disappointed.
Yeah. But you say that, it does happen in the UK.
Then, I can't even remember the...
Ricky published that picture the other day of someone that's driving McLaren next to him. I mean, but that's small fry compared to some of the stuff we see that we talked about before on the podcast.
It's just
but
outrageous.
I think what's outrageous and has frustrated me about all of these things that we see, again, without sounding hypocritical, because back in the day, yes, I was done for speeding and whatever. I'll put my hands up for not, I shouldn't have done that, but it is what it is, and I'll always admit it. But it's the fact that all these people can put these things on all their platforms, and these platforms, whether it's Instagram or YouTube or TikTok, they're not banning these. No. So what does that do? Because all this stunt has done is given this guy so much more publicity, whether it's good or bad.
Yeah. And so the good thing is, if you look at the comments are pretty
it's hatred. Yeah. But he's just. I bet you he doesn't care. I mean, he's just looking at the numbers. He probably earns a fortune. But
it annoys me that most of the people that we do what we do are just so careful about what they do. But you get someone like that, or someone like that idiot in the 765 LT who's clearly, I'm driving on a public road in bloody Poland or wherever they say it's going to be. And no, you're not. No. You're just down the road from where you live in a village.
I know that corner very well.
And you know the corner, and you weren't doing 30.
And it used to be a 30 zone. It's probably a 20 zone now.
Yeah.
And it's that particular corner. It's surrounded by there's a horse school there. It's just it's just stupid. But anyway, on that note,
we've turned into those. Remember the Muppet Show?
Yeah.
Remember the two old blokes that sit in the box and go, like we're me and him.
We are.
Me and you.
Yeah.
Anyway, I just wanted to get that rant off my chest because I very rarely I actually put something on Instagram last night because I was so angry that someone with that amount of influence, and I'm going to use the term influence, I'm going to call him an influencer, but he's got a massive audience of probably very young, impressionable people. And, for me, YouTube should take his channel down. Permanently.
For sure.
It's like that. Was it Logan Paul when he did the filming in that wood? And
again, he knew exactly what he was doing there. Yeah. He knew exactly what
But the YouTube should take a stance, or Instagram or TikTok, because he's massive on all three platforms, and not just remove the content. They should take his channel down.
Yep.
Definitely. But they won't.
No.
Anyway.
Because it earns them too much money as well.
Yeah.
But anyway. Big thanks to Podium Place once again. Even bigger thanks to Michelin UK for supporting our podcast.
Yeah.
And even bigger thanks to everyone watching. And I really hope that if you do watch on YouTube, you've subscribed, because I know a lot of you haven't. It's free.
It is.
Check out our Facebook page. Check out our Instagram page. And stay tuned for the next episode coming in 2 weeks.
Yeah. Filmed in about an hour.
Yeah. Exactly. With a special guest.
Very special guest.
Yeah.
Anyway. Easy now.
Easy now.